Hey, what's going on, guys? It's the Yu-Gi-Oh! Journey, and we're coming back at you today with a Salmon deck profile. Finally got some physical cards. Summer's coming, so hopefully we'll have more of these physical deck profiles for you guys. But today we have a Salmon deck profile, and this will be coming courtesy of my brother. This is actually his deck, and he wanted to show you guys the deck, and he does a lot of the behind the scenes for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Journey to make the WIGO Pro deck profiles happen. He does all the editing. So, yeah, I figured I'd let him come, do his deck and just show it for you guys. So, without further ado, I'll hand it over to him so that he can show you guys what he has.
Okay, guys. So, just to get right into the deck profile, I just wanted to note that one of my friends actually helped me get this deck, so shout outs to him. So yeah, so let's just get right into it. So first we play 3 copies of Flame Buffalo and followed by 2 Lady Debug. I know a lot of people only play Lady Debug or they play Flame Buffalo because they're just like, they're both starters, so why not play one or the other? Well, I think that you could play up to 5 of a combination of both, just because that Flame Buffalo, this guy is really good if you're scared that your opponent's going to hand trap you, but if you know that your opponent isn't going to hand trap you, then you can guarantee a Gazelle with Lady Debug. So it's kind of like a mix of both, and if you open up with Lady Debug and Flame Buffalo, then you just normal summon the Buffalo, link into Balanx, chain block, and then discard the debug, and then substitute that for 2 other cards. So I just really think that debug and Buffalo are both very good, but I wouldn't recommend playing more than 5. So off to the Salamangreat monsters, we actually play 1 copy of Salamangreat Balanx. Would play more, but it's limited. We play 2 copies of Spinny. He's a very good card. He gets himself to the graveyard and then summons him back, so it's very good, but he's just not, we don't play 3 copies of him because he can kind of like stop the deck from working because he does banish himself, so, and it's only once per turn, so you don't want to see too many copies of him. And yeah, so then we play 2 Foxy and then followed by 2 Jaguar. So Foxy, I'm a little hesitant on this card because I don't really like the excavation effect. The excavation effect says that you can, when it's normal summon, you can excavate top 3 cards, and then add 1 Salamangreat card you excavate. But sometimes you don't, you have to excavate the right stuff for him to be very useful, and a lot of the times I just don't see that. So I really like his discard effect. It says that if this card is in your graveyard and there is a face-up spell or trap card on the field, then you can discard 1 Salamangreat monster for cost, and then special summon him, and then you can destroy 1 face-up spell or trap card on the field. So what Foxy does, he actually gets rid of skill drain, and I think that's very useful. So he gets rid of a lot of problematic, like Imperial Order, skill drain, things like that. And Jaguar, he's just so good because you can actually just return your extra deck monsters back into the extra deck and then summon him, so he's like a free recycle plus a free summon to where your Sunlight Wolf points to for another recycle. So I think that he's very good for that. And finally, for the Salamangreat monsters, I do play 1 copy of Mole. I think that Mole is actually a very, very good card. I think it's very underestimated because Mole isn't a brick. Mole is actually a very good extender, and it can possibly just normal summon link into Balanx. Mole is actually very good because it can extend you, so it's like a free Sunlight Wolf as long as you have another Salamangreat monster to use it with. And if you're really kind of like in a pickle, then Mole, you banish it from your graveyard, shuffle 5 cards into your deck, which can include just cards from your extra deck into your extra deck, then just draw 2 cards. So I think that's really good. I think that's really strong, especially in today's metagame where you just get like board wiped and then your opponent kind of just passes and then you are done because you have nothing else on your board. So I think Mole is actually very good for that. Obviously we have to play 3 copies of the best extender in terms of link monsters. So we play 3 Parallel Exceed. Parallel Exceed is so good because it's a free of any rank 4 And even if you do get ashed off of the Parallel Exceed, it's still a free link material. So I think it's really good just for that. And it can be used like your opponent can't really bounce Parallel Exceed to your hand, because if they do, then you're just going to use it again next turn. So things like Hieratic Seal don't really help against Parallel Exceed, because I see a lot of Dragon Link decks out there. Hopefully Dragon Link does get hit on the ban list, but for now we play 3 Parallel Exceed because it's just the best extender. And that is all for the monsters. Now I'll just show you the hand drops. Well, I guess these hand drops are also monsters. So we play triple Ash Blossom, followed by triple Ogre. I think that Ogre is really strong, whether it's against Boot Sector or like Dragon Ravine. Ogre just stops all of that, and if your opponent has like a Savage, then you can just Ogre it because it just destroys it. So I think that Ogre is actually very good for like problematic monster and Spell Trap card removal. And Ash Blossom, it just negates anything. Like anything that would add or dump, it just negates it. And yeah. Next, for the spells, we play 3 Signet Mining and 1 Circle. This is like a 1-card Gazelle, whereas Signet Mining is a 2-card Gazelle because you need 1 to discard. But Signet Mining is actually, it's very good because if you can get your Salamangreat monsters to the graveyard to use their graveyard effects, then Signet Mining actually becomes like very useful because it does get your Salamangreats to the graveyard and then searches you Gazelle. So yeah. And then next we do play 1 copy of Salamangreat Sanctuary, followed by 2 copies of Will of a Salamangreat. I think that obviously you have to play 1 Sanctuary, because first of all you need it for your Sunlight Wolf, and then second of all you do want to use it, that way you can chain block with Balinks for Flame Buffalo, for example. And so that's why you really need Sanctuary, you just need 1 copy of it. Then Will of a Salamangreat, it's actually a really good extender, but if you see multiple of it, it doesn't help you at all, so you have to play 2. I guess you could play 3, but then that's like if you're playing Desires, because then you don't want to banish too many. But other than that, it's just a really good extender. Next, I just play 3 copies of Twin Twisters. I don't know, like just back row decks kind of just kill this deck. Like, for example, Strike, anything that gets rid of like your first special summon, like it kind of kills the deck. So you kind of just want to eliminate those things during your opponent's end phase when they set a bunch and pass. During their end phase, you just discard 1, target 2, and most of the time you have 1 to discard because you do play Sunlight Wolf, and that just keeps adding cards back to your hand. So I think that Twin Twisters is just a very reliable card. So off to the traps, we do play 3 Roar and 2 Rage. Roar, I know most people play 2 Roar and then 2 Rage, but I really think that Roar, instead of using your Gazelle dump to dump Roar, why not just like draw Roar in your opening hand and then dump a monster, like an extender monster, using Gazelle. So that actually kind of helps you a lot. Even if you draw this, it's like you're guaranteed a negate, even if you like brick. So, because you can always make Balinks in this deck, so this will always provide you with a negate, even if you hard draw it. Next, we do play 2 Rage. So Rage is very good because it does pop too. Sometimes you just have to remember that it needs to be summoned using a monster with the same name, and you can only use that effective Sanctuary once per turn, so you don't really want to overdo it on like Balinks. So sometimes you might want to link Balinks into another Balinks, but then you can't go into Sunlight Wolf again. You can't reincarnate Sunlight Wolf, which makes Rage very problematic, because then you do have to send a Salamangreat, then target. Whereas the other effect just targets your Link monster, and then you can just destroy cards so it doesn't target. Next, we do play 2 Strike and 1 Crackdown. This is kind of weird, and I wish that these 2 were Crackdowns, just because Crackdown steals your opponent's monster and then you can use it for Unicorn, which is really good. because you always have something to discard, just like your sign up mining. So Crackdown is just really good. Like, you steal their monster, use it for material, and then their monsters just left the field, because you can always just use their monster for material. But if you guys wanted to play 3 strike, I could understand that too, just because strike does negate a summon, which is actually very good in today's metagame. So that is it for the main decks. Next we go on to the extra deck. So we do play 3 copies of Salamangreat Phalanx. If you guys don't know what this card does, it says if this card is link summon, you can add 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary from your deck to your hand, and if a Salamangreat card or cards you control would be destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So this card is actually, it's really good. You need to play 3 copies of this card, because a lot of time you will run out of extra deck, and you want to minimize that. So like, that's why you have to play like Jaguar and things that reuse your extra deck. And speaking of reusal, cards that reuse, we do play 3 Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf, just probably the best Salamangreat. It reuses your negate, and it can also reuse any fire monster, which includes Ash Blossom. So I think reusing a hand trap doesn't come very often, and I think that's pretty good. So next we do play 2 copies of Heatleo. It's not a once per turn in terms of shuffling. So when it's link summon, you can target 1 card in your opponent's spell or trap card zone and then shuffle it into the deck. So this card is really good. Basically, you make a Heatleo, shuffle 1 card in their spell or trap card zone, and then make another Heatleo and then shuffle another one, so it kind of like kills their back row if they really need that for like their turn. So if they think that's going to survive, Heatleo really just gets rid of it. So for the kind of more generic, I should say, like non-Salamangreats, we do play 1 copy of Update Jammer and 1 copy of Transcode Talker. Update Jammer is really good because this provides you with the OTK with Transcode Talker if your opponent just passes. And also, it also helps because it just negates everything until the end of the damage step, which makes it very useful because that way, like, your opponent can't really interrupt you. And yeah, so basically, yeah, you have like Parallel Exceed. Then if you have 2 Parallel Exceeds, you make Update Jammer and then link like your Phalanx plus your Update Jammer into Transcode, bring back the Update Jammer. Now your opponent, since they're co-linked, since it would be like this, your opponent can't target any of them with card effects, and they both gain 500 attack, which makes them pretty good. So next we do play 1 Nightmare Unicorn and 1 Appaloosa. If you had Access Code Talker, I don't have Access Code Talker, which kind of makes my deck like quite a bit worse in terms of OTK. So it's more of like a grind build, just because I don't have Access Code. So if you have Access Code, take out Appaloosa and then just play Access Code instead. But Appaloosa just helps with grind game, at least in my version it does. And yeah. And oh yeah, Nightmare Unicorn is also just really good for shuffling your opponent's stuff into the deck. Next we do play, in terms of Xyz monster, we play 1 Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Lion Emperor. We play 1 Baguska and then 1 Dweller. I'm just going to go over each one. So Lion Emperor, it's very good just because Lion Emperor, what it does is it says once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 fire monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, but then you can't normal summon or set that monster with the same name for the rest of the turn. So essentially, this guy is your end combo. So you usually have Sunlight Wolf, Gazelle, and Spinny, and then you just make this guy. And then what he does is you can actually, as long as you have a fire in the graveyard, when you activate the effect, then you can activate the effect, detach Gazelle, and then target Gazelle, and then just add it back to your hand for follow-up next turn. And then Baguska is just crazy. You basically just need, it's basically these 2 are for Parallel Exceed. So if you don't use if you don't open up Parallel Exceed, you can't really make these unless you somehow get 2 Jaguar onto the field, which is very unlikely. But Parallel Exceed just makes these 2 so easy to access, and Baguska is just like a sitting skill drain. So he kind of just sits on the field and then just switches all your opponent's stuff to defense mode. So what you want to do is you want to establish your Sunlight Wolf, and then just sit Baguska in defense mode, and then when you want to turn it into like your opponent can't target it and like it can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, you just switch it to attack mode. So it just then you can do your plays on your turn. And yeah, Abyss Dweller. If you guys really wanted to play like Zeus just for Lion Emperor and Baguska, you would take out Abyss Dweller. But Abyss Dweller, I just think that it's actually just a really good rank 4 option that you guys could play in this deck. You could play Tornado Dragon. I would strongly recommend that you guys also play Tornado Dragon instead of Abyss Dweller, but it all really depends on your guys' locals, and like who you play. So like Abyss Dweller for me, it helps stop things like just effects in the graveyard against like Dragon Link. So yeah, that's what we play in this deck. So yeah, guys, if you like the deck profile, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, we'll see you next time on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Journey.